stage, U.S. Representative from Georgia's District 14, Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Hello, South Carolina. I am absolutely tickled to be with so many patriots celebrating our American independence. But I have something very serious to talk with you all about today. America is in a crisis. The ruling political class of powerful elites in Washington, D.C. are targeting their political opposition while protecting their own from very serious crimes. On his first full day in office, I introduced articles of impeachment on Joe Biden. We knew, you knew, America, we knew then what Joe Biden and his corrupt family were up to. Now I serve on the Oversight Committee, and under the Republican-led House, we have been able to uncover in just 6 months unbelievable amounts of crime and corruption perpetuated by Joe Biden, his disgusting son Hunter, and his entire criminal family. Thanks to a brave whistleblower coming forward to Senator Chuck Grassley and Chairman James Comer, we subpoenaed a very specific form, Form FD 1023, which was generated by, in the FBI's own words, their best and most credible informant. The form directly implicates Joe Biden in a foreign bribery pay-to-play scheme where he and Hunter both accepted $5 million in bribes and payments in exchange for foreign policy decisions as Vice President of the United States. That's right. By the way, this 1023 form totally vindicates President Trump's call with the president of Ukraine when he asked about Biden's crooked deal to get Ukrainian prosecutor Viktor Shokin fired. They should have never impeached President Trump. But this wasn't all the form said. Keep in mind, this is an unclassified form. All of you should be able to read what it says. But the FBI Director, Christopher Wray, who is the head of Joe Biden and Merrick Garland's personal police force, required members of Congress to review this unclassified document in a SCIF in the Capitol. Then he deceptively redacted it to conceal the fact that the Ukrainian oligarch who paid off Joe Biden has 17 recorded phone calls, 15 with Hunter and 2 with the big guy himself, Joe Biden. But this isn't everything, folks. It's just a fraction of it. A few weeks ago, I went to the Treasury Department to review thousands of pages of suspicious activity reports on the Biden family. Not just Hunter, the Biden family. A suspicious activity report is something banks are legally required to send to the Treasury when a bank account is being used for potentially illegal activity. I'd be willing to bet that none of you here have ever had one SARS report. But what I read was shocking. The Biden family set up dozens of shell fake LLCs to launder money. When most people create LLCs, it's a business. They typically provide a product or a service. That's what most people do in America, but not the Bidens. And I don't count Hunter's paintings as any type of product, do you? The SARS reports even listed payments to Russian and Ukrainian prostitutes. The only thing the Biden family ever sold is Joe Biden's political influence, and selling out the American people has made them rich beyond their wildest dreams. We must impeach Joe Biden. Joe isn't the only person we must impeach for being corrupt. You see, you fire people in the real world when they do a bad job or when they're criminals. That's why I've also introduced articles of impeachment against Attorney General Merrick Garland, FBI Director Christopher Wray, and Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas, and U.S. Attorney Matthew Graves for abuse of power and weaponizing our federal government. We're a nation without a border, a nation without fair and equal justice, and a nation that refuses to enforce our laws. Our so-called leaders must be held accountable. Now, you may have heard in the news that a corrupt federal prosecutor wants to serve President Trump a 100-year death sentence for moving some boxes he was legally allowed to have under the Presidential Records Act. Can you believe this? Shameful. President Trump, under the law, is allowed to have the documents. Yet somehow Joe Biden hasn't been charged for having stacks and stacks of classified documents in his garage next to his Corvette with a door that opens and closes. And you have to ask yourself, how was Joe Biden even able to get these documents from the time he was in the Senate? He would have had to have stolen them from directly inside of a skiff. You see, senators can't take classified documents home with them. And then we have Hillary Clinton, who was storing classified information It never gets old. Never gets old. So Hillary Clinton had classified information on Anthony Weiner's laptop, a known pedophile, convicted for sexting underage girls, by the way. These people are repulsive. Now, this was when she was Secretary of State. When will Hillary Clinton be charged for illegally mishandling classified information? How do we turn this ship around, America? Well, Republicans don't have a lot of power right now. We barely control 1/2 of 1/3 of the federal government. But we have the House and the power of the purse. I've made a promise to my constituents, and I'll make this promise again to each of you. I will not vote to pass any appropriation bills that funds the two-tier justice system or the weaponization of the federal government. Not going to do it. In fact, I'll tear those bills to pieces, and I'll encourage my colleagues to do the same. You see, when Republicans took control of the House, we brought back something called the Holman Rule, which allows us to defund any federal program or salary during the appropriations process. Believe me, I'm going to be using the Holman Rule a lot. I think a good person to start with would be Jack Smith, the leader of the latest witch hunt against President Trump, don't you? What about Jack Smith? Do you guys want to pay for his paycheck? No, you shouldn't have to. These people are corrupt. An important vote we have coming up in Congress is also for the National Defense Authorization Act, and we love our military. We do. God bless every veteran here, and God bless those of you who serve. And I'm proud to announce that I've introduced amendments to the NDAA to block funding for the war in Ukraine. The only thing our country should be doing is pushing for peace, like we had under President Trump. We had world peace for 4 years, and we desperately need it again. We must stop the warmongers, and we must stop funding a deadly and bloody war in Ukraine. That's right. The American people don't support a war in yet another foreign country. Do you? Do you support? No. The American people support defending our own border with our own strong military against the savage Mexican cartels. Some people in Washington think the best way to spend your hard-earned dollars is killing other people in foreign wars. I don't agree with that. I think those people have been in office too long and have forgotten how you feel. We're $32 trillion in debt, out of control inflation, and our economy, under Bidenomics, by the way, is a failing economy that has most Americans to the point where they can barely afford groceries, gas in their cars, or rent to keep a roof over their families and themselves over their own heads. It's time to end the bloodthirst in Washington, D.C., because the American people don't demand foreign wars. The American people demand Washington put America first. Now, speaking of America first, while Democrats in Washington, New York City, and all over the country continue working to ruin President Trump's good name, I've been working with the GOP conference chairwoman, Elise Stefanik, to correct the wrongs of the past. President Trump's political impeachments, led by Nancy Pelosi, Adam Schiff, and the Democrats, were so egregious that they must be erased from history. That's why Elise Stefanik and I together have introduced resolutions to expunge the impeachments of President Donald J. Trump. He was innocent from the very beginning, but the Democrats were on a witch hunt, as they always are. Before I go, I want to talk with you about one last thing. Today is July 1st. But all last month was what the left refers to as Pride Month. God-fearing people here and everywhere know the rainbow belongs to God. Now, I know you've heard of it because every crazed left-wing corporation shoves Pride Month down your throat in June. And our federal buildings in Washington fly the flag of sexual ideology as if our country is under a foreign occupation. That's not what this should be about. I'm not sure why farmers need sexual ideology to grow crops and feed our country. But the Department of Agriculture sure was happy to raise that rainbow flag in front of their building. The Pride movement has gone far beyond equal rights. Every American is equal, and I'm so glad and proud to say that. But every American already has the same rights as everyone else. And the Supreme Court acknowledged that, didn't they? But what started under the disguise of equality has turned into a movement that is targeting our children. At a drag march just last week in New York City, they openly chanted, "We're here, we're queer, and we're coming for your children." I don't know about you, but I tend to believe people when they tell me exactly what they're going to do, and I pay close attention when it comes to our kids. This is why I introduced the Protect Children's Innocence Act to end so-called gender-affirming care for minors. Now, what is that? It's where the bodies of our children are mutilated with mastectomies and hysterectomies and castration before they're old enough to join the military, drive a car, buy alcohol, get a tattoo, but we're allowing their bodies to be permanently altered? Let me tell you something. I'm a mom. It's the best job I've ever had. And I will never stop fighting until this barbaric practice is illegal for children and families in all 50 states. Well, I'm proud to let you know that our House Speaker, Kevin McCarthy, and our House leadership have come out in support of my bill because Republicans agree we must stop this radical genital mutilation of children. We must re-elect President Trump in 2024. And President Trump himself has committed to signing my bill into law. South Carolina, listen up. You all have a very important job to do next year, very important. You have to re-elect President Trump for a third time. It's so important that we win back the White House in 2024, but it won't be enough. We need to win a majority in the Senate. We need an even bigger majority in the House. And let me tell you how you can get involved. And I want every single one of you involved. Here's what I want you to do right now. Take out your cell phone, open your text messages, and text the word JOIN to 88022. 88022. Get involved, get your conservative friends and family registered to vote, and let's send President Trump back to the White House in 2024. Thank you so much, South Carolina. God bless you. God bless President Trump.